Welcome to Save As Ability, a podcast to educate and inform you about disability employment issues. My name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Save As Ability. It's David D'Arcangelo, and we appreciate you just coming off of our big 125th anniversary, or 125th episode edition, I guess. And now we're switching gears just a little bit. We're talking a little bit about international disability today, and particularly in areas that have been impacted by war. And today we're going to talk about Ukraine and how we could establish new disability policies as Ukraine and Russia conclude their fighting. Okay, at least that's the hope. That's what we're trying to prepare for. And, I had some relation with a potential client that I've talked to. And so I did some research, and that's what this is about. And so we're going to get right into it. So Ukraine already has a disability system, and I'm putting system in air quotes there, set up. Now, unfortunately, because of the war, though, many of the programs or programming in Ukraine, particularly at the national federal level there, has been impacted. All right. So really what we're talking about here is how are we going to be able to put a system in place so that post-war individuals with disabilities, many of which, by the way, will be acquiring their disabilities as a result of the war and the fighting and the violence and all of that. Particularly like the blindness community. Like if you see one of those shells go off, you could be blinded instantly. Or, being exposed to those munitions over there can have very significant impacts on people's health and well-being, and that can lead to disability. Let alone obviously, the bombs and the bullets and all of the repercussions from that. Obviously, disability has gone up significantly. Now, the data is somewhat sparse, and I guess it depends upon which data set you're going to look at and, how focused that is. The WHO has been in there. World Health Organization has been in there. They have some estimates. UNICEF has been in there. They have some estimates. The Ukrainian government or governments really, here in America, we think of everything as like either local, so it's cities and towns, state, or the federal government, right? Or sometimes there's like, there's like quasi-government entities or, like districts or something like that. In Ukraine, they do it differently though. Like they have a oblast system there. And so in Ukraine, the mayors and the localities really have much more influence, particularly over social policies, than here in America. So it's a different dynamic over there, I guess is the point. Not that I know all the intricacies of it, but having spoken with people on the ground over there in organizations and members of the government and other NGOs over there, governmental organizations over there, it's different, I guess is the point here. So really, it should be about how can we help Ukraine establish policies, programs that are going to be able to help people with disabilities, whether it be rehabilitate or readjust or, get vocational training or whatever the case may be, the full spectrum of disability. How are we going to support that so that they don't get left behind as a result of the injuries that they encountered in the war? Let alone just the disability that occurs anyways that's not part of the war, right? So that system then becomes more taxed. So again, the goal is to improve the human condition here at Save As Ability, and that's what we're talking about. So, one of the things I wanted to point out was the recommendation that's supported by UNICEF and was commissioned by the Ministry of Social Policy, and it found that support is often status-based, and that data sharing is weak. The funding is heavily concentrated in pensions rather than rehabilitation, employment, and inclusion.
And so then how in a war-torn country are you going to be able to put in systems to be able to address all of this, which the low end estimates are tens of thousands. And it's really probably more than that. This is just because as a result of the war. The high end estimates are hundreds of thousands. So that when you add that in with people with disabilities that are, have it outside of the war, now you're talking about hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of individuals. Okay. Ukraine is a big country, and, there's what's the total population is in like the 30 million, I think, or something like that. So we're talking about a large amount of individuals with disabilities here. And so I think the way to approach it would be, if here's America, here comes America with, whether you agree, this isn't political, but we've been supplying them, the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian government, with munitions and artillery and, all of that stuff for the war effort. Then additionally, all of the other aid that goes along with all the humanitarian aid as well. So let's just say we're ahead of the curve and we're calling for a truce, and Russia and Ukraine are going to lay down their arms and the fighting is going to stop tomorrow, which we hope, because we're for peace here at Safe Disability. Okay. We're not getting involved politically. But even if it started right now, you're still looking at, like, they're not ready for programs. Like, they first have to rebuild infrastructure. They have to, regroup people. There's all the terms of the agreements that there will be to come to some type of ceasefire or agreement or whatever. All of that, I think, needs to be in place before you can full-blown implement this. But I think preparation for a new disability system does need to begin now. You can't wait for that, because there's so many logistical challenges. And how are you going to do it? Like in America here, we kind of take for granted that we have the Americans with Disabilities Act, that is federal law that then permeates into the states, into the localities. There's really not an equivalent here in the Ukraine. I mean, I guess they could use and mirror the laws that were just passed in the European Union. Okay, that's still not even equivalent to the ADA then. So right now in Ukraine, the way it happens is there's a lot of local initiatives. And again, a lot of it, as we indicated, is tied to like pension systems and things like that. Well, what about the individuals with disabilities that didn't work and they're not in that pension system? What types of services are they getting for their health, for their welfare, for their vocational training, for their employment training, for their education, all of that? So I think we need to begin to put that in place. Here's another data point. So the Ministry of Economy also documented reimbursement for workforce adaptation, which includes compensation of up to 106,000 UAH for workplace equipment and adaptation. All right, so why do I pick that out? I pick that out because that's a signal that this is on the government's radar. They're interested in doing it. They're trying to figure out funding mechanisms. But I think the funding mechanisms that existed pre-war are probably going to look much different than the funding mechanisms post-war, and the manner with which the services are delivered particularly. Because the funding and the services really go hand in hand. You can't have, people aren't going to volunteer to do these services. I mean, there's a small amount of that, faith-based and nonprofit, but that can't be the backbone of the network. There needs to be some type of financial structure in place that's going to support this as a day in, day out, 40-hour-a-week activity that you're going to be able to pay people to work with the individuals with disabilities. Okay. So, I don't have all the answers here. I will tell you, though, that the clearest test of a unified disability policy is simple. And it's that, can a person with a disability in any part of Ukraine be discrimination-free, have an opportunity to be employed or to be educated or participate in their society? So that should be the goal here. And right now, I don't know if that's the case, because they're dealing with war and they're overly taxed with that. Understandably so, by the way. The safety net system, I think right now is, it's fractured. It's over, obligated, if you will, and it can't really handle it. So they're going to need a new system. And that's what we're here to try to do. We're trying to help them, give them ideas, give them some structure and organization. And, with all of the opportunities that will come post-war, we want to make sure that people with disabilities are going to be able to take part in those opportunities. So this is a big issue. It's a major issue. War is very, very challenging, and that violence, unfortunately causes and creates disability that otherwise might not have happened. And again, all of the native disability that just naturally occurs as part of the human condition as well. You add the two together, all of a sudden the incidence of disability in Ukraine and these, now other regions throughout the Middle East, all of that is going to go up significantly. There is a differentiator there in the manner with which, Ukraine, I think, and European countries value people with disabilities. I'm not so sure that the same is true for those other cultures and those other societies. It's a much different dynamic of how people with disabilities are treated there. So we can maybe talk about that on another episode, but we're getting into international relations here on Save Visibility, but the goal is the same. The goal, no matter where you are, local, state, federal, international, doesn't matter. Our goal is to help improve the human condition and use our expertise to be able to organize and promote access to opportunities for people with disabilities to be independent and self-determined. So that's the goal. So I hope this was an interesting episode. If you want to hear more international types issues, let us know in the comments. But otherwise, it's David D'Arcangelo, another episode of Save Visibility, and I hope you have a great day.
For more information about disability employment issues, please visit our website, disabilityemploymentsolutions.com. The Save As Ability podcast is available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, our YouTube channel at Disability Policy Expert, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment. Save As Ability lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #TheNewRadio. Again, my name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Until next time, thank you. I hope you have a great day.